Welcome to the Art Biolab channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most incredible fields out there, biotechnology. You know, the pace of change here is just staggering. And it's not something that's just happening in a far-off lab. It's actively reshaping our health, our industries, and really, our entire future. But to get a true sense of the scale of this revolution, you have to see the number behind it.
Take a look at this. $5.85 trillion. Let that sink in for a second. That's the projected value of the global biotechnology market by 2034. A number that big tells you one thing for sure. This isn't some distant, theoretical concept. The revolution is well and truly underway. So, what's actually driving all this?
Well, the easiest way to wrap your head around this whole thing is to think of biology as a kind of language. For the very first time in human history, we're becoming fluent in it. We're finally learning to read the code of life, our DNA. We're also learning how to write and edit that code. And now, we're even starting to build brand new biological systems from the ground up. These three ideas, reading, writing, and building, they're the real key to understanding everything we're about to explore.
So let's start right at the beginning, reading. It makes sense, right? Before you can edit a sentence or write a book, you first have to know the alphabet, you have to understand the grammar. And in biology, that means decoding the immense, beautiful complexity of our genetic blueprint.
So how exactly are we getting so good at reading this biological code? This chart breaks down the key players. Now, we've had massive leaps in things like genome sequencing and discovering biomarkers, but the real game changer here, it's artificial intelligence. AI is the secret sauce. It gives us the power to analyze these colossal biological datasets at a speed that we could have only dreamed of just a decade ago.
And the impact of that is, well, it's staggering. AI can slash the time it takes to develop new drugs by up to 40%. We have tools like AlphaFold predicting the incredibly complex structures of proteins, which is absolutely critical for designing new medicines. And then you have companies like In Silico Medicine that are already using AI to make clinical trials faster and more effective. This isn't just about moving faster, it's about doing smarter science.
All of this amazing new ability to read our biology leads directly to the rise of what we call precision medicine. And this is a fundamental shift. We're moving away from the old one-size-fits-all approach to healthcare. So instead of just treating a disease, we're starting to treat an individual's specific version of that disease, all based on their unique genetic makeup.
And this is not some small niche field. Just look at these numbers projected for 2025. Over 10,000 companies, massive job creation, huge market growth. It's a seismic shift, especially in areas like cancer treatment. But of course, it also brings up some really important challenges around patient data, privacy, and ethics, things we're all going to have to navigate very, very carefully.
Okay, so once you can read the code with incredible accuracy, what's the next logical step? Well, you start making edits, and that brings us to part 2, where we move from simply decoding to actually rewriting the code of life.
This is the profound question that's right at the heart of this whole trend. What if, instead of just managing the symptoms of a genetic disorder for an entire lifetime, we could actually go in and correct the underlying typo in the DNA itself?
The technology that's making this all possible is, of course, CRISPR. You've probably heard of it, and that molecular scissors analogy is just perfect. It's a tool that allows scientists to find a very, very specific sequence in our DNA and then make a precise cut or a change. It's basically the biological equivalent of a find and replace function in a word processor. It's just incredible.
Now, it's really important to distinguish between gene editing and its close cousin, gene therapy. Think of it this way. Gene therapy is like installing a new, correct piece of software to run alongside a faulty program. Gene editing, on the other hand, especially with tools like CRISPR, is more like going into the original source code and fixing the bug, the typo, directly. Both are incredibly powerful, but they work in fundamentally different ways.
And again, I want to be really clear. This is not science fiction. This is happening right now. CRISPR-based treatments like Casgevy, which treats blood disorders, are already approved and are literally changing people's lives. And at the same time, the RNA technology that powered the COVID vaccines is being repurposed. Companies like Moderna and BioNTech are now developing personalized cancer vaccines. It's just a phenomenally exciting time.
So that brings us to our third and final section, building. If you can read the language of life and you can write it, what's next? You start writing your own stories. We are now moving beyond just editing existing organisms to designing and building entirely new biological systems.
This is where it gets really futuristic.
I love this quote because it just perfectly captures the paradigm shift that we're living through. For all of human history, we've basically been limited to what nature has already provided. Now, for the first time, we're starting to design biology itself to solve human problems. A fantastic example of this is 3D bioprinting. It sounds wild, but here's how it works. First, you design a tissue on a computer. Then, you create what's called a bioink. It's made of living cells. Then you print it, layer by painstaking layer. And after printing, that structure actually matures into living, functional tissue. Companies like Organovo are true pioneers here, developing printed tissues for drug testing and maybe one day even for full replacement organs.
And this idea of building goes way beyond medicine. The field of synthetic biology is engineering microorganisms to do some incredible things. I mean, think about custom-designed microbes that could produce biofuels, or create new sustainable materials, or even act as living fertilizers to improve crop yields. Companies like Ginkgo Bioworks are, in essence, programming cells in the same way that we program computers.
So we've seen how we're learning to read, write, and build with the very fabric of life. The potential is clearly immense, curing diseases, creating sustainable industries, completely transforming our world. But this incredible promise, it comes with a price, and we absolutely have to talk about the challenges.
Each of these trends really presents a powerful duality. For every amazing innovation, there's a pretty significant challenge waiting. Gene therapies, they offer permanent cures, but they face these enormous hurdles of astronomical cost and heavy regulation. AI accelerates discovery, but it also brings in serious concerns about algorithmic bias. And synthetic biology, well, it opens the door to building completely new organisms, which raises profound questions about biosafety and ethics.
So what's the bottom line here? Ultimately, this is the central challenge for all of us, making sure that the conversations around ethics and cost and access can actually keep pace with the scientific breakthroughs. As we push the boundaries of what's possible, we also have to figure out how to do it responsibly. And that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? For the first time, we have the tools to be the architects of our own biology. That is arguably the most powerful technology humanity has ever developed. So the question we all have to ask ourselves is, what kind of future will we choose to build with it?